You know how to book flights and hotels. All you're missing is a tool to plan the travel experiences you'll have once you arrive. That's why you need Viator. Book guided tours, excursions, and more in one place. There are over 300,000 travel experiences to choose from, so you can find something for everyone. And Viator offers free cancellation and 24/7 customer support for worry-free travel. Download the Viator app now and use code Viator10 for 10% off your first booking in the app. Find travel experiences for you. Do more with Viator.
Looks like you need a vacation. Enter the 5-Hour Energy Where Will the Tide Take You sweepstakes. You could win a $10,000 dream beach vacation. Imagine jet setting off to a tropical paradise, having fun in the sun, or diving at a gorgeous reef. It's up to you. No purchase necessary. Go to 5HETide.com for official rules and to enter. That's 5HETide.com. Enter today. Ends June 30th, 2024.
Rock and roll. Okay, hello and welcome to Volume 9 of Comedy Album Book Club, which is, of course, the monthly live podcast show where we listen to an influential comedy album and then talk about it with comedians and comedy fans. Before listening further, please listen to Bill Hicks's album Arizona Bay, as we have just done here at the Social Capital Theatre in Toronto. Bill Hicks was born in 1961. He started performing as a teenager and by the age of 25 was using LSD, marijuana, and mushrooms regularly, depleting his finances. However, in 1987, he sort of had a break when he was on a young comedian special put on by Rodney Dangerfield, and he started to get well known after that. Known for controversial, philosophical, as well as surreal and psychedelic material laced with shouting and a nihilistic view on society. His brand was very different from other comedians of the day. Bill Hicks died of pancreatic cancer in 1994 at the age of 32, very young. Arizona Bay is his third album, released in 1997, 3 years after his death. And like some of his other albums, it's unique in that it features background music written and performed by Hicks himself. We'll talk a little bit about that a little later on. My first guest tonight, both these guys have been friends of mine for a long time. They were together in a sketch troupe called Press Release, which was then renamed Press Release Repeat for unknown reasons. Wow. So my first guest who chose the album tonight, he is host of the 10-Minute Talk Show, which I have been on, and it's a blast. He's an actor, a warm-up guy, comedian, and an eco-activist. Please welcome my good friend and yours, Derek Forgy.
That feels nice.
How are you, buddy?
I'm really good, man.
Yeah, good. Tell us a little bit about the eco-activism.
Sure.
Allies, I think.
I do these presentations in high schools where I go in, and oftentimes they assemble like the biggest eco nerds in the school, and I mean that affectionately because I am one. And they basically, I have an hour to try and figure out what their eco focus is. You know, like a lot of people like grade 7 and up and in high school, they're like, I want to stop climate change. I want to do something good for the environment. But it's like, well, now what? Right. So I give them a list and I sort of streamline.
What do you mean now what? Has that been fixed?
No, yeah, climate change is canceled. Did you guys not know that?
Good, good for us.
Yeah, we really buried the headline on that, didn't we? Yeah. So, but they want to do something, but it's like, what? What can I even do? They think about polar ice caps melting, and it's like, I have no idea how to fix that. So it's just like, let's just focus on one thing and forget the rest. So we just basically streamline their focus, and we get projects up off the ground, and I help them get there.
Cool. It can be very overwhelming, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one person can't fix the whole earth, but there are little things we all can do to
and I tell them that too. It's like, you on your own as one student in this gymnasium is not going to stop climate change, but you can just focus on one thing and take a chip out of the big wall of climate change. So I do that, and it's a lot of fun. I love it.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Good for you. Awesome. And the 10-Minute Talk Show.
10-Minute Talk Show is exactly what it sounds like.
Seems self-explanatory.
It is a talk show that is 10 minutes in length.
Yeah.
There's your elevator pitch. That's really it. One guest, one joke, no commercial breaks, one take all the way through. And it's everything you'd have in a talk show just really sort of shrunk down. I think it's Canada's only late night talk show. Is that possible?
It is
possible. I think it might be. I mean, I think that I'm going to go with that. I'm going to say yes because until somebody sends me hatred on the internet. But I'm pretty sure we're the only one I can think of.
That's amazing.
I love doing it. Yeah.
I feel like you need to come up with a more succinct way to describe it, because it shouldn't be, the description shouldn't be 20% as long as an actual episode of the show.
You're not wrong. I
Everything should
did
be
say
smaller,
it's a
right?
talk show that's 10 minutes in length. That was really, and then I gave you more.
Yeah, I didn't
I
need
gave
it.
you too much. You're right. I'm going to shrink it down. You're not wrong.
Too much forky.
This
That's
is
what they
one of
call
the
it.
reasons why you're one of my favorite guests, because you do not, you don't pull punches, and I respect that.
Well, I'm glad because today I'm not the guest.
No, you're.
The tables have turned.
Oh, literally, he has a table. We don't have tables.
that's true.
We don't have
for-
tables
no,
at all.
no. It's a
It's
status
a power
thing.
move. I
Yeah,
get it. It's a
big
Jack
power.
Donaghy power move. You have a table. We have none. I get
It's
it.
a shadow totalitarian government president, and all of Bill Hicks's. Look
right.
the other way, and I'll get your tables out from under you.
Just found a lime.
That other voice you hear, ladies and gentlemen, is my other friend, actor, comedian.
Jason has two friends.
Two friends, yeah, my other of all the friends.
We're both here.
Please welcome Adam Kenneth Wilson.
Ooh, the Kenneth.
Yeah.
He even
Hi,
threw the
thanks.
Kenneth in.
Thanks. He did throw the Kenneth in.
That's
I'm
his
grateful
official
for that.
Yeah.
Thank you
stage
very
name,
much
yeah.
for getting all of
You
me
betcha.
here, named and otherwise.
That's been the easiest part of this, I think, is to read the name that someone else wrote down for me to say. And you've been in lots of things over the years.
I have been in some stuff. As you so graciously pointed out, I'd done some sketch with Derek back in the day here, and that is how I met you while you were doing sketch with
right.
the
Yeah,
Radio
Radio
Vault
Vault,
program,
yeah.
and I really enjoyed those
12
shows.
years ago or so.
And I think somewhere into the middle of Derek's work and my work together, you had invited me into one of your Radio Vault sessions where I had a beautiful time working with you. And that's where I found out all about your voice career and all of the work that you were doing there.
And just recently, you and I have sort of dovetailed in that respect. Adam also is a dialect coach, and you were saying to me that it's very rare that you get to perform your own accent.
It's true. It's true. I very rarely perform as me. It's a real novelty when I get to sound like myself. And then I think, oh, God, I sound weird. I don't like this. I don't like the lack of artifice. I'm so naked.
So tell us about some of the accents you've done on film or TV.
Do your Perry sound. It's really good.
Oh, Perry sound. Jeez. Oh, I seen them guys coming down there with the. I mean, it's close.
See, I told
it's
you.
Close. It's close.
good.
So I've had to do quite a few UK accents. I've done your London accents, some Northern English stuff. I've been Irish for television and for theater. Southern US, Brooklyn. I'm not going to run through them all and do them actively. But
How cool would that be?
I was hoping you were going to do that.
I can do Brooklyn and British. And,
There are
We're going to
days.
quickly turn this into a one-man show. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I have some characters in my neighborhood.
You know, this reminds me of a story my Nona told me from the old country.
I thought that's what you were leading him into.
No, I
Just
didn't know this
outside
was
the
gonna-
fringe tent, just a waving and a shrieking with my flyers, Lord.
My grandmother, boy, she had some good advice. She sounded something like this. No, we're not doing
We
that.
don't have time for that.
We do not.
Welcome, fellas. Thanks for that so far. It's been great.
That sounded weirdly
That's
condescending.
almost like we'll see how you do in the next couple of minutes. Here,
So
boys.
far, it's been great.
It's the table, guys. It
7
does
minutes in.
something to me. I apologize.
You've changed, man. Ever since we got you that small table that's slightly bigger than a plate,
Give a man a table.
you turned into a fucking mess of arrogance. Anyway, sorry.
That's gonna be my album title.
Mess of Jason
Arrogance.
Glide,
A
Mess of Arrogance.
Yeah, I like that. So Derek,
Yes.
this is Hicks's third album. Why'd you choose it?
I like it.
Fair.
Thanks.
Yeah. This is the shortest podcast.
I thought, maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was his most recognized work. I thought it was the one that people knew the most. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, a lot of the work on it is certainly among his most recognized.
I think so,
work.
yeah.
But you can identify some of those snips from previous albums
Right.
and/or stand-ups.
Sure.
I was trying to get your numbers up, man. I was like, oh, everybody knows this album, right? I guess they really don't, but I just thought of Hicks's albums, I thought that was the one that was most
it
recognizable.
might be.
I
I
don't know.
mean, there were several released posthumously, and I think this may be the first one.
You know what? I also like the title. I think just the words Arizona Bay are evocative because that idea of Arizona Bay existing, like the
Right.
water being there. It's ominous and it's kind of it's evocative kind of thing. I don't
Okay.
know. I like it. I like the music. I also think that's a good discussion point because you two
Yeah.
were cringing
Okay, here we
every
go.
time the tunes came on, and I was just like grooving. Yeah.
I have got to take back. I said earlier. I said that this was among my least favorite Hicks for that reason, because I found the music to be like a hold button or a pause button, and the interstitials kind of yanked me out of his flow or his momentum.
Yeah.
But during the sequence where they're talking about the death of the Republican elephant, and that's all over, the underscored sort of tribality of the music, you really feel a call to arms. And I think at this point in his career, he was as much about trying to inspire us and make people laugh. And I really think that was the war cry, the challenge. So I connected with that piece of music right after I whined to Derek about choosing the one with all
Yes,
the music.
agreed. And I also feel like Bill Hicks is like a photo negative of Jan Arden. Let me
This will take
let
some
me explain.
explanation.
So here's
Agreed. Move on.
That's it.
Yeah, we all feel that.
No, that's it. I'm not explaining
Obvious.
that. That's
Done.
pretty clear, right? You were all. I just say what people are thinking. So anyway, like Jan Arden is a musician, but she can land a joke. She's funny.
Yes, she
You know,
is,
like
yeah.
she's her focus is music, but if you in between songs, she can like say something funny. Whereas Bill Hicks is a comedian, but he can also noodle on a guitar, no problem. He's not a musician, like he's not putting an album out.
Right.
Just like Jan Arden's not doing an HBO special, but she can dabble in that. And does that make
I
any
watched
sense?
that. I watched
like
it.
like
Jan
really. I
Arden's
mean, I
HBO
feel like when I listen to the Bill Hicks music, it feels like a couple uncles in a garage who are just like, "Hey man, let's just tune our guitars and fuck around." That's what it feels like. It's not great music, but it does underscore something. I think it does add a bit of an energy, and also Bill's pacing. He really takes his time. He leads up. There's a lot of really great pauses in there at some points, and then he just ramps it up, and then does it like all that stuff is really fun. So I just like and sometimes you forget the score is there, which I like, and sometimes it goes on a little long, but I do dig it, and I also think it's good to just mess around with the genre once in a
Like
while.
the format of
just
what
fuck with
is.
it. Like Tom Henry has an album out right now. Tom Henry Kills is a really great album, and he has some jazz snare in it, and it really adds a nice flavor to it. You know, Dimitri Martin has music in his, and I think that works too. Like just fuck with the genre,
Burnham
man.
is huge now. The Burnham kid.
There you
he's
go.
Big.
Bo Burnham is one. That's true. But it's like, and our friend Sandra Battaglini is trying to like get the world to take stand-up more seriously.
Right.
And even though I don't think stand-up needs it to be considered a proper art form, I think it's going to help the stuffy people who make those decisions go, oh, interesting, there's a cello in there. Maybe this is an art form after all. So maybe I'm getting political. I don't know. I dig it. It's something different. It's something fun. And I make no excuses.
So fledgling comedians out there, throw a cello on the album.
Throw a cello.
That's the way to get funded.
Oboe, if one's not available.
Maybe an oboe.
Cellos
Sure,
are
why
big
not?
to lug around.
Or you just say cello, like that Who song. I love that. Where a quick one while he's away. There's a part in it where they wanted to have a cello solo, and they were denied by the record company the money to hire. I think they wanted like 100 celloists. So in
That's a
that
lot.
part of the song, they just go cello, 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 cello. It's sort of a
That's a good one.
a middle finger to the.
But they did get the cello in Baba O'Reilly, right?
Well, yeah. Well, everybody realized, well, we can't have them say cello anymore.
That's They're like, yeah, we have to.
Spring for the
We
cello.
got to hire one. Can we rent one of
I
those?
think that'd improve an album for me. I feel like I'd be more into it if
I
someone were
love
just
it.
repeating
I
cello
love that part
than
of
to
that
hear
song.
the
It's
cello.
so funny. It's
Maybe next time, if any of us ever record an album, just get one of us to say cello through the whole thing.
Yeah,
Let's not do that. All
experimental.
right.
well, so that actually touches on how I feel about the music in
Yes.
this album.
How do you feel?
I feel like it's a crutch.
Oh, okay.
It's interesting to me, Adam, that you mentioned that the elephant one and how that helps with the call to arms and stuff. But it makes me wonder, did the material not do that on its own? Because all this stuff happened in post. It's not like he has a
Right.
guitar on stage and this was all part of the plan.
Yeah.
I was talking to our producer Matt about it earlier, and you can hide a lot of edits with music,
Right.
And he was saying that he edits some of his jokes, and you don't hear it quite as easily when you've got music underneath because it sounds of the
Right.
same piece. But that's a really weird thing to me. The idea of editing a joke on an album, like it seems there's a dishonesty to it to me. I
Okay.
mean, cutting out bits and stuff, sure, but like. There's a part there where he says, Officer Coon, and then it goes Coon.
Yeah.
Coon.
It's an
And
echo. Yeah.
You don't hear the next part after that, and
Right.
it feels artificial to me.
Well,
It's
here's
strange.
how we know it's the same night. We know it's the same night. That album is from one evening because of that
One
freaking
woman.
cackling woman into the whole album. That woman is through the whole thing, and it's especially later on when we get into the extra track, the Charlie Hodge, everybody, Charlie Hodge, the thing with Elvis
the
Presley.
Elvis thing.
That woman, I don't know if she's just been drinking more, but you
Right.
can really hear her in that track. Like
Yeah.
the album kind of wraps up, and then he comes back on for the encore,
Yeah.
and she is just losing her mind. And it's I hope I'm not ruining the album for you because you can't get it out of your head once you hear her. Once you have it, you won't be able to escape. It won't escape you, just like you heard just now. But my rendition of that laugh is not much of an exaggeration.
No, and I know
from
you're
what's
not
happening.
a fan of women expressing their enjoyment audibly. Yeah. And you would have been right at home in the mid-'90s. I totally get it.
Derek, shut up! I'm a misogynist, Porgy. That's his handle. He goes by.
If you know
And
me,
like you said, he makes no
you know
apology.
I'm
Yeah.
against women laughter. I'm taking a hard stance against women expressing themselves.
This might be a good time to mention that Derek Forgy is not a tall man, and he will rage against women at any. He blames his mom for that.
Derek
We
Forgy.
get to
None-
make these allegations because
legit,
I know no one less ragey.
My mother is 5'10". My dad is
5'4",
yes, I'm just I'm just addressing my truck driver buddies. No, no, she is 4'10".
Does that mean you don't understand? 5'4", good buddy. Oh, sorry. Let me explain that again. Oh, that's a 10.
My mother is 4'10", motherfuckers, and my dad is 5'4". My biological father is 5'4". I'm a miracle of height at 5'5". So
that's right. Yeah.
Once you, yeah, exactly.
It's basically you added
Thank
the
you
heights.
thank you for applauding condescendingly.
I think that's how the math works. You add your father's height to your mom's height, and that's how tall you'll be. Right?
I'm not sure that math checks out. I'm not sure that math adds up.
Yeah, we'll figure that out in post. As
Me
Bill
bragging
goes.
about being 5'5". Yeah. Anyway, you were going to say something.
Oh, was I?
Yes.
Okay, it's on me. Table guy now. So you said about how you like the music.
I do like it, yeah.
Adam, I don't believe you've totally come around.
I didn't at first, but I like it now. Yeah.
The music. All right. Bill Hicks has always been identified since the earliest moments that he began to rise to prominence as the rebel rock star comic, right? I'm a rock star. I'm a little fucking poet tonight. I'm a little fucking poet, as Bill would, and he had this long-standing relationship with rock. You know, he toured with Tool.
Yeah, open for Tool.
And I believe when he first started touring with Kinnison, there was a heavy rock crossover with that as well. Right. They might have even opened for the Crew. I think they might have done a Motley Crue.
Oh, really?
But when you put
Kinnison did for sure. He was on a row with Crew for sure.
So either
Hicks, I don't know,
Hicks
but
toured
Kinnison
with
for sure.
Kinnison right after he came off the Crew tour, but it's real close.
I don't know. Yeah,
real close.
I don't know.
Man, I miss those days. Wouldn't it be cool to see an awesome rock show and have a killer
Yeah, it
comedian
should
open
happen
for
more
it?
often. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, and Tool, after he had toured with them, Tool wrote music in his honor and stuff.
Yeah, and put some of his stuff on their album covers.
And
Anemia,
you'll
right?
You'll
Anemia?
see that filtered in.
Yeah.
But I also like when you have this kind of music that is present on this album that feels a little bit like on hold music, a little bit like elevator music.
It does feel like that.
I don't know about you, but when
Your call is important to
yes,
us.
absolutely. the tyrannical overlords will manipulate your behavior shortly.
It does feel like that,
Please,
yeah.
have a fucking smoke, and we'll be back. But when you have this music in the way that it's in, I don't know about you guys, but when you're listening to a recording of someone who you have seen perform live a lot, and you're really familiar with their mannerisms, the music as it is placed on this album denies me the opportunity to mentally watch Bill stop and take that breath and run his hand through his hair and adjust his sunglasses, lower his head a little, and launch into the next bit.
Okay.
I feel like the music sort of pulls you out of that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it produces it in a way. Like it feels overproduced to me. It feels so unnecessary, and I feel like we're trying to listen to two different things that don't coalesce, in my opinion.
Okay.
Like I don't know what kind of music would fit. Probably harder rock music or something that would be even more distracting.
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
It's so peaceful, all of his music, and his comedy isn't.
Yeah, right.
And,
no, that's true.
Maybe that's part of the
Well,
point.
we were talking about Patton Oswalt and how Patton Oswalt has this bit where he talks about how he can't stand comics that talk about like, oh man, you better strap in because stand back. Here comes my ass kicking comedy, and then they're like, hey, you're blind peanuts, and I'm like, really, fuck off. Like he can't stand that, and I agree with that. So I guess that's why, because Hicks has an arrogance to him. Let's be real. He is smug, he is righteous, but he backs it up. And a lot of people shit on Dane Cook for this. A lot of people get on Dane Cook's case for this. I don't get on Dane Cook's case for this, but Dane Cook has that like, I'm going to fuck shit up and I'm going to tear this place down. And then he's like, you ever notice how bathrooms are wet? And I'm like, really? That's your material? Like, and again, that has a place, right? That has a place.
He's one of the most successful comedians of
he
all
is,
time,
absolutely is. But I have a problem with the bravado of like puffing your chest and then just going, you ever notice how women put their shoes in a circle? I'm like, fuck off. Come on. Like, again, I have no problem with his comedy. I have a problem with the bravado, right? Like, he's basically on the same. Hicks is more like he's going to tear shit up. He's actually going to take the president down a peg. He's going to talk about things that we should be questioning. He's going to be talking about big things, and he's going to ramp up to it. His energy is going to be good. He's going to get to a climax, and click, clack, pa-pow. It's going to be strong. So he has earned that chest puffing. Does that make any sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you look at him in contrast with other comics, you look at like, I guess the closest two parallels that you probably draw to Hicks would be Dennis Leary, and we might get into that.
We're going to get into that.
We will.
Dennis Leary, and of course Kinnison. You'll hear him when he hits those rage spikes, or he has the outburst.
Yeah.
You can hear Kinnison in him.
Rage Spikes, by the he also opened for. It's
there you go.
another
Yep.
rock
Touring
band.
with Tool,
Rage Spikes opened for Tool, and then I think they quit. They disbanded. But continue. Sorry.
4'10" and misogynist rage
Yes.
all together.
Tonight at Savage Garden, rage spikes. All right, go on.
But you got those guys, and then you look at Kinnison and you look at Leary, and both of them. Okay, Hicks was mad at the world.
Right.
Kinnison is mad at his world. Leary is mad at his world. Hicks is mad at the world. And there's such a profound difference from
you're right.
There.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I wondered who was going to open the can with Leary.
Well, it's funny.
We'll get there.
I'm glad you went there because I was going to say that you were the person who introduced me to Bill Hicks, but in a weird way, it was Leary who was the first person who brought me into Hicks material because he kind of stole it. So,
Okay,
that was the best Patton Oswalt stole
it was. So I just stole. Ironically, I stole a line from Patton Oswalt. So irony, full circle. So because I heard Lock and Load and No Cure for Cancer first before I heard anything from Hicks because you were the guy who introduced me to that.
Oh right, didn't I say if you like Leary, you like Bill Hicks's material, you'd like it better when Hicks did it?
Of course, because I don't think those albums hold up as well as like I liked them a lot more when they came out, and they were a big like in the '90s. I was a lot younger, and so I enjoyed them. But I listened to them recently, I'm like, they're not as strong. And then you hear Bill Hicks, and you're like, whoa, yeah, I see what's happening here. But I do want to play devil's advocate a bit because I know Leary has gotten a lot of guff. I used guff in context for stealing stuff almost directly verbatim, but it's definitely more the mannerism. All that stuff, like it's the run and it's the stuff and it's the hard turn and the yelling. That is, I think, a big more thievery than just like the Jim Fix joke and the other stuff. I think that's
the smoking material,
the smoking, the unapologetic smoking. But the thing I have the hardest time with Leary is not so much the Jim Fix joke, not so much the mannerisms, but it's actually the spirit of it. I find that's the bigger problem because if you're gonna rip off a guy so blatantly, you better think the same way that he does, and you better be perpetuating what he has. Right. Let's go Lady Gaga Madonna for a second, shall we? Like a lot of people say, oh, Lady Gaga is just ripping off Madonna, but really, Lady Gaga is the next natural evolutionary step of what Madonna is. She picks up where Madonna maybe say left off, and I'm well aware that Madonna's still with us and still touring. I'm aware of that, but I'm saying Lady Gaga is like a fresher, almost like, you know what I mean, like a fresher version of what Madonna was doing, pushing the envelope, and all that stuff. Women women empowerment, the whole thing. Yeah. Lady Gaga's that. Whereas I don't feel like Leary and Hicks are in the same place spiritually, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm getting at here?
Absolutely.
And that's the part that I'm most offended by.
Well, how would you say Kinnison fits into that?
Kinnison's the same. He same. Like I feel like Leary and Kinnison are closer, more cut from the same cloth than Hicks. Yeah, I really do think that.
That's interesting.
And I also feel like some of Kinnison's stuff is less forgivable than Hicks and Leary's is. Like it's a little more misogynistic and a little more homophobic.
Sure, I mean Hicks was even when Hicks occasionally would say things that were kind of homophobic. Or it would be less culturally sensitive from a perspective of diversity than he ought to be or have been at that time. Right. Kinnison, you can salvage now so little of those albums that you could listen to in good conscience. Yeah, you're right. But I am glad that they worked together enough for Hicks to osmose the needed rage that he got from Kinnison. That went into his
or give permission to and feel like it's all right to do that.
It flourished in his presence, we'll say, grown in the same soil.
So for me, I find Leary the most listenable out of all three of them.
Oh, interesting.
And I feel like he has, it might just be because I think his comedy is more accessible. He doesn't have the long rage screams that Kinnison and Hicks do. And I find that interesting that you group Leary closer to Kinnison. I think Kinnison and Hicks are closer to each other, and Leary's sort of a different thing. I find Leary is better at bits. He has a story that has an end that is a punchline. It's got a point, and then he moves on. He seems like more of a classic comedian to me.
He's safer, I find.
Yeah,
I find him safer. Yeah.
I guess that's fair. Yeah, he's got an angry persona, but it's about more accessible things that he's more angry about than he should be. As opposed to these guys are about big things.
You're right. You're not going to hear Bill Hicks do a bit about his kids putting a sandwich in a VCR. That's not going to happen. Which Leary has done. Which
I think I see what you mean, though. That the Leary character almost acknowledges its own hubris in a way that Hicks was dead serious about his. Right, I am your prophet now.
I don't think Hicks is much fun. I don't think he'd be fun to hang out with at a bar and chat. I think Leary would be.
That is a very good point.
And I think I like comedians that I think would be fun to have a beer with.
That's interesting. I'm going to agree with you on that. I feel like, I think sitting with Leary would be more fun. But I guess I feel like I feel like listening to a Bill Hicks album, I'm fuller. Like I feel like I'm more full. It's like a better meal.
I
that makes any sense.
would have felt that way 15 years ago if I'd entered into Hicks earlier. I think a lot of the premises that he brings up are easy to agree with.
Right.
But I don't think there's a lot of depth to them.
Oh,
I feel like he goes, yeah, how about there was no, Oswald wasn't even there. This is crazy. Nobody believes this stuff. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And then he acts out stuff like, yeah, he'd be hanging from his toes and it could work, blah, blah, blah. And people are laughing along with the examples he says, but he doesn't really get deep into that we've been lied to by the government and what this controversy means.
Right.
It feels very surface level anger stuff to me. Like, what about those it feels like he'd be talking about chemtrails. There's stuff in those chemtrails, ridiculous. Nothing to back that up except more anger and more examples of things. It feels like to me, it feels like he wants to be an angry philosopher and doesn't quite. To me, he doesn't work as a philosopher or a comedian. And a lot of people, he works as a mixture of the two.
Okay, I think he works as a philosopher and a comedian, but I also think that's very much based on when in my life I found him.
Yes.
The age you are at which you first hear Bill Hicks.
Right.
You need to be just boiling with angst, and you need to be so angry, and you need to be
feel unheard, I think.
Yeah, and feel either a rejection of the system or a rejection by the system in order to go, yes, you are speaking for me, with me, to me.
Yeah.
And then, so like now, partly I listen to it and I go, oh, honey, it's a little loud. Can we turn it down? He just kind of, you know what I mean, though? Like,
there's a million people saying this stuff now.
Yeah.
That's true.
But there were not.
That's true.
In the 90s, this was a new voice. And people having the guts to say these things out loud that I think a lot of people were feeling and weren't sort of saying out loud to each other. It was topics that were taboo at the time.
Yeah.
And now we're such fans of just truth yelled at loudly all the time that I don't think his voice would stand out anymore with the way the material's written now. I think he would have to work harder to make it stand above other stuff.
Well, I feel like Bill Hicks is kind of like for his time, he was sort of like a Kurt Cobain of his time, meaning he gave other musicians the excuse to be a little gritty and like you don't have to just talk about airline peanuts or cats are different than dogs and isn't it funny how black people drive or whatever nonsense was happening. No, that was more of a Simpsons reference. Like black people drive like this and white people drive like this. Like that's kind of what was happening in the 80s. It's kind of like and from the 80s, right? He gave permission to open this whole other door, kick down the door, and go, it's okay to yell at shit that you're upset about. In the same way that Jimi Hendrix was like, dude, burn your fucking guitar. It's cool. It's all good.
Sort of maybe the Lenny Bruce of his day, right?
Yeah, kind of like that.
I'm not a huge fan of Lenny Bruce listening to it now, but I realized, he was arrested at so many of his shows for profanity. I don't even like he was just swearing basically, and they were arresting him for that. But same type of thing. He kicked down that door, and I don't have to be a fan of Lenny Bruce to appreciate what he brought to the table. So I think that's sort of how I feel about Hicks.
And I'll give you both you guys were at my 30 when I turned 30 years old. I did a 30-minute stand-up set. Like I put all my bits together and I tried to make a really clean like stand-up special. Both you guys were there. You brought me out, which was wonderful.
Is that the one where you ended with the
that was a thing. Yeah, that was. We'll get to that too. Perhaps we can talk nudity if you want. But before I get to that, it's a poor turn of phrase. Anyway. Bill Hicks was in my head for that, and let me tell you why. Because when I did that, when I was rehearsing that set, there's a bit in there, as you may remember, when I was talking about Canada's involvement in the Afghanistan war, and there's a good 6 minutes where I'm pissed about something, and I'm ramping up to a point, and it does get a laugh at the end, but it takes a lot of table setting to get to the reason why I'm upset, and I question myself of is this even funny? Should I take it out? Is this the place for a comedy special? And Bill Hicks was in my head screaming like. He was doing his thing, and I'm like, "Fuck it, it stays in." So
cool.
he gave me the permission to go. It's cool. Give yourself the time, give yourself the room to talk about something of some sustenance, some substance. Get there. If you have a point, and if you're ramping up to something, it's cool. Give the audience that. Give the audience more credit. That's kind of how I feel. So he's in my head.
It's tricky. I feel like there is some kind of equation you can figure out with how long you can leave them hanging before they laugh again. Mike Birbiglia is great with that kind of stuff.
You're right.
Just beautiful storytelling and
cohesive,
makes you cry as much as he makes you laugh. But he knows how to pepper little jokes, in that storytelling, and the payoff is always huge.
Yeah.
No,
you're right.
And you feel. How do you feel? So how do you feel Hicks? You feel like the punchline, also known as the where he shouts so you know when you're supposed to laugh.
Wow.
You think
casting some shade.
you think that it's often a ramp up to sort of one
Yeah, it is.
reveal, one joke?
Because really, I don't. I actually really struggle with, like, if you watch Conan O'Brien's monologue, for example, and Conan O'Brien's has gotten to this point where he has one sentence to set it up and one sentence for the punchline. That's what his monologues are now, and I'm struggling to write that kind of comedy. I'm trying because I have a 10-minute talk show. I don't have a lot of time. I got to get to the punchline quickly.
Right.
My stuff is scream of consciousness. See what you did? Now
Scream
Deline's
of
in my head.
consciousness.
Deline's in my head now, where I just can't trim the words, and I have to ramp up to get to where I'm going. And I would probably never do, I don't know, well, I wouldn't say never, but I wouldn't feel as comfortable working on bits and working on stuff if I didn't have that sort of Bill Hicks permission to take the time and talk about something a little heavier. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we always have a chain of people who sort of inspire the side of comedy or an appreciation for the bad behavior of comedy.
Right.
Whether you were started as a Bruce fan. For me, the analogy that I always carried in my head when I fell in love with Hicks was George Carlin is to Twisted Sister's We're Not Gonna Take It, as Bill Hicks is to Rage's Fuck You, I Won't Do What You Tell Me. And they're both from the same like nugget. They're both from the same idea of I'm in charge of me, not you.
Right.
You're not the boss of me. Is the
But a
essential
different tone.
heart.
Yeah, it's the same material, but
And I sometimes hear bits of Carlin in Hicks when I re-listen to Hicks, but I have to turn him down a lot lower now when I listen to him.
right.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, I feel like listening to this album, it feels like he saw Carlin and he was like, yeah, he gets it. And then he's like, I can do that. And then I'm like, no, you can't. I appreciate Carlin's specificity and intricacies a lot. I'm a big fan of language and seeing the craftsmanship.
Carlin is a craftsman
like
with a
that,
chisel,
right?
and Hicks has a sledgehammer. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. That's another great way.
He
to put
is Gallagher.
Hey now,
I'm kidding.
I'm going
kidding.
to need
It's the
to
worst
take that
burn
back.
Bill
back.
Hicks is the Gallagher of comedy.
I would love to.
Violence began. What time is it? When did the
It is
hurting start?
9:53 when
Thank you.
Adam lost his.
I would love to.
My alibi
I would love to
starts now.
authentically get both of your position on this, because I'm not sure how I feel about this, but I want to get a vote on this. Okay, so every once in a while, Bill Hicks will set traps. In my opinion, he'll set these little traps up. He did it when we can talk about the infamous Letterman thing that didn't air, but he did it probably most perfectly in his Letterman set that didn't air until like 20 years later. He did this thing where he set up the Billy has two mommies thing. Does this sound familiar?
Yes.
He's talking about these brand new stories that were explaining like people like same-sex marriage and same-sex couples.
Okay,
and there's one book that's called I think it was like Billy Has Two Daddies or something along those lines. And he does this thing where there's not a garnish of insincerity, not a soupçon of irony. He sends it so straightforward. You heard me. Soupçon. I used the word soupçon. Nor should you.
Bring it again. One more.
He's a soupçon of insincerity.
a scream of
A
consciousness.
sampling of no, and he says, I think this book is sick and disgusting and evil. He basically says that telling kids that having two dads is okay is awful, and he sets this up. And there's actually some people in the audience who applaud that.
Oh, wow.
They actually go, and I think
wild.
he's setting them up because he's used to playing smaller clubs. He's like, okay, now I know more where my enemies are.
That's
because with most comics, when they're setting up something, there's a little bit of a wink and a little bit of a nod, like I'm being coy, but
they mostly want everyone to like them.
But he sends that, and the next line is he points out how hypocritical it is to be against two men being together, but thinking two women together is sexy. Like because he says, "Oh, two women together, that's totally cool." He points out how hypocritical
Timmy's
that
two
is.
dads, that's disgusting and it's violent. It's an undermining of our civilization, and we're going straight to hell in a handbasket. And they're like, some of the rednecks are like, and then he goes, Cheryl's two mommies. On the other hand, absolutely love the book.
great.
Much closer to the
Great.
bit. Thank you, Adam.
I love.
I'm paraphrasing.
I love that he
That
gives
is-
them that safe
very close.
They feel safe there,
right?
and then
because
he outs them.
Bill Hicks is accustomed to having like 70 people in a room. That's mostly his legacy. So if he's so in tune with the room that I feel like he's looking for those 3 assholes who are going to go, screw those guys. And he's like,
contact,
oh, really?
contact.
And now he knows exactly where to send his rage later. It's like, there he is, that fucking guy in the trucker hat. I'm getting him later.
It's a gutsy move, man.
He sets these traps up.
Yeah.
And he's done it a few times. He did it with that, and he does it with a couple other things. But he does it so straight-laced. And so do you think he actually believes these things, or do you think they're traps like I do?
Oh, man.
What are your thoughts?
I think he was a lot more socially conscious than the time would give him credit. I mean, now, if I were watching a comedy special, if I were in a club just watching like someone do a fiver, and a guy uses, let's say, pussy whipped, I'm like, and good night, I'm out. You lost me. I have no interest. Whatever you have to say now, no thanks. But in that time and place, a lot of the material, he was maybe more socially conscious than his time and place. And looking at him through our contemporary lens, it's, you want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Had you been there with him then.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to, especially as a performer, to be accessible to your audience, but still try to blaze a trail. And I think it's fascinating how willing he is to make himself look bad, hoping that giving the audience the benefit of the doubt that they will get what he's doing.
Right. Yeah.
You laughed at a point that I laughed at. It was in Hooligans, where they're talking, they're making fun of how British people talk. And,
right.
And in part of that, I was like, he's getting a lot of mileage just using terms we don't say over here and making fun of that, and that's kind of lame. And then at one point he says, come on, why can't you speak English? Which doesn't get a laugh in the crowd.
That's so damn funny.
That's a great joke.
Yeah.
And it makes him appear ignorant.
That's right.
But, I think he's a smart enough guy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The joke is that they invented English, obviously. But he never goes back to that or underscores
I like
it.
to use the word invented.
No, today on stage, someone
invented English.
Today on stage,
I got it.
I picture people with beakers.
Yeah,
and
of
just
course.
like,
most people you would see now
a
do that
dangling
joke.
modifier.
If you didn't grab that joke immediately, a comic who is learned to speak English, and the audience didn't get it right there, they go, "No, huh? You didn't."
Yeah.
Like that would happen.
Right,
You go,
yeah.
that you wouldn't allow.
For various reasons.
The work to hang there in the air unrecognized.
Yeah.
And he was great at doing that.
Which is basically being self-conscious. I mean,
he's great to move on and just go, that's fine, that's for me, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like he just didn't give a
without even
shit.
saying it. Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed that quite a bit.
Yeah, so you're on my page. He does set traps. Okay, good.
Yes, yeah, no, I
Wasn't sure
agree.
if that was just me.
And I'm curious to know what the man himself was like. I mean, is this feels like an outlet for him. It feels so sincere to me, so much of it.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I actually was curious about it because we don't know him. We've never met him. I mean, we never shared stage time with him. But like Dennis Leary and even David Cross and a few other people have been accused of taking some of his stuff. And I just want to play devil's advocate for a second. Just what if? Because if these guys knew him and if they were in the clubs with him, like I know Leary knew him at some point. They did shows together. They worked together. So I feel like those guys knew him. And if we know him like just the tip of the iceberg, we're pretty aware that he was never going to take like a fucking sitcom on CBS. Like he was never going to be like the surly malt shop owner on Step by Step. Like he was never going to take that gig.
That bit with the orange drink. They want him to sell the orange drink.
Orange drink. Thank you. That's exactly right. He's never going to be the spokesperson for Orange Drink. No. So what if, and this is a big what if these guys were so in tune with what he wouldn't do and where he wasn't going to go, they were like, you know what? I'm Dennis Leary. I'm going to do a fucking sitcom. I'm David Cross. I'm going to do Men in Black too. So let's just get some of his stuff out of the fucking dust and put it on stage because he's never going to get a sitcom gig. He's never going to have an HBO special because and we know this. What if we had a understanding that we get his shit out of the clubs and put it on TV? Is that possible? Am I dreaming?
Possible.
I don't know
am I being Pollyanna here?
I don't think anyone will ever admit to being that conscious of thought. But
I don't know.
That's interesting.
I just want to believe that. I want to believe that those guys are looking at him because I think of like Doug Stanhope too. Right. Like Doug Stanhope is well aware that he's probably never going to be Ray Romano. He's never going to be hosting SNL, and so
you're going to steal his material.
So I'm going to take his stuff. No,
well, see, now you sound like Carlos Mencia, man. I don't know. I'm not sure.
No,
don't write any of that down.
No,
Never let any of that be used against you in a court of law or good taste.
Now forever. Yeah. So.
Anyway, because it's immortalized. I don't know. Maybe that's naive, but it just.
No, I think that's interesting. And but are you saying it sounds like you're trying to say it's from a place of respect?
Yeah, I feel like it could be coming from a place of respect.
You're like we like this
just,
guy. It's never going to go anywhere beyond what he's done. So maybe let's keep sharing it with the world.
I don't know because I know that things were tense with Leary and Hicks for a while. Like he was quoted in an interview. The thing he said, they asked him, "Why did you quit smoking?" And he said, I want to see if Leary would quit. It's like, oh damn shit, son.
I actually love the quote from him where he said, I stole all of Leary's material, but I camouflaged it by adding punchlines and releasing it before he did it."
That's so good.
Oh
that's so
man,
good.
that's
going off the trail. When
you're
you're going to steal material,
it's an aloe vera for that burn.
Prior timeline is the way to steal material.
Yeah, that's me in the sun for 8 minutes burn. That's what that is. That's a ginger joke. Thank you for your pity snicker. Tonight on Pity Snickers. All right.
And we are Pity Snicker.
All right, this sounds like a great place.
It does sound like a sketch troupe.
Sounds like a good
vaudeville
place to take a little break.
No.
Derek is going to do a tight 5 minutes alone while everyone else goes to the washroom. Please don't do that. And we'll come back. We'll take some questions from the audience, and we'll all be back for the second half. Thanks, guys.
It's ambiance. Ice.
Comedy Album Book Club is recorded live on the first Thursday of every month at the Social Capital Theatre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Join us, won't you? We listen to the album at 8:15 p.m. and then we record the panel discussion for the podcast. Tickets are pay what you can, with some proceeds going to Covenant House, Canada's largest agency for at-risk, homeless, and trafficked youth. For more details, please visit us at comedyalbumbookclub.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and your favorite podcast app. Feel free to send suggestions for future guests or albums. I'm Jason DeLine. Thanks for listening.
That's a good one to come in on. So anyway, the guy with Down syndrome has AIDS, and we're back.
Are we rolling?
Oh, that's unfortunate. That was not
40,
something I wanted to say with my mouth.
Well, be more careful.
Say it with flowers.
Yeah, say it with
we
flowers.
were just talking about some of the glory days of sketch, some of the things we've done back in the day.
We so were.
And it made me think there's some parts that you used to do, Adam, in Press Release Repeat that felt very Hicks inspired to me. There were a couple of points where I don't know if it was a character. I feel like it was a character. You'd come out, and I remember one specifically where you sat on the edge of the stage and you sort of philosophized for a bit. And the last line of that was, maybe there weren't any good old days.
Man.
Whoa, like that. That was in a comedy show. Like that. That was some heavy stuff.
Yeah, I used to take myself very seriously. It was the night. We were performing.
I love that you remembered it better than I do.
My antiquated gray-haired mind, fellas. I can't remember what gig it was, but I do remember you had allowed me to do it, and it was a bit dark. And I had gone on in a leather jacket with sunglasses with my guitar slung over my shoulder.
Okay, yes, I do recall this.
Strummed a couple of chords in a terrible Dylan imitation, and then I'm sure that the words out of my mouth, if Hicks hadn't written them, were like, let's say homage would be a noble way to put what I was doing there.
Yeah, well, definitely there was some inspiration there. Like now, like looking back, like it's interesting that I have that memory sort of locked in my head, and I never really saw it until now. But yeah, that was probably 12 years ago.
Fresher in your mind than mine.
Well, you saw many more sketches than I did of you two, so it probably muddies together.
That's what's happening.
You know?
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
Oh yeah, this is a show. We're still doing this show. Okay, we got some questions from the audience, and hopefully this will be accessible to some of them. Aside from Derek Forgy, who would you say has been inspired by Bill Hicks?
Oh gosh. Well, we've got your admissions like Cross.
David Cross.
Yep.
Let me think of who else right now is.
Jen Arden.
Was Jen Arden?
She's one.
I haven't heard it.
Have you seen her HBO special? It is killer.
Oh, so good.
For a comedian, she's a heck of a musician.
Yep.
She opens and closes the show with a song.
She's a delightful person, by the way. She's a delightful person. Yeah, a bunch of times. Yeah, I had to bring her dog bowl to her hotel. True story.
Really?
Yeah, not had to, but I did because she's lovely.
Okay.
It's not a great story. It's a short story.
Well,
Let's move on.
It wasn't the way you told it, but
I can weave a tale, can't I? Can I weave a tale? Grandpa, tell us again the story about the time you brought a dog bowl to Jan Arden.
Listen, I gotta tell you something about Jan
just told
Arden.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something.
Important.
Let me tell you
You gotta
something.
listen.
Jan Arden has a fucking dog.
It's about Jan Arden.
Yeah, Jan Arden for sure. David Cross, that's it. That's the end of the list.
that's everybody. I mean, I would say comedy as a whole has definitely been influenced.
Yeah.
I concur.
Just the honesty of it, the being unafraid of saying unpopular things.
Exactly.
Sort of just saying what we're all thinking as opposed to, you've never thought about this, but how about this? And more... Seinfeld that does that thing where he looks through the lens of hyper focus, where we all hold a glass all the time, but have you ever noticed it's round on the top? It's crazy, but then he'll go
Another rock solid impression from Jason DeLine. Airtight.
He'll go.
Man, I should have.
Jesse Thankful you didn't get his Michael Rentier. It's
I really should have taken a breath.
Too
before
soon.
that.
Too soon.
No,
Jerry
that
Seinfeld
was
soon.
spot on. That was better? Was that an improvement?
That was my impression of what I did.
I love it.
so
It's
many
getting
levels.
really
Deep, yeah.
10 levels down. Jason
So many
Inceptions
levels.
himself into
That
like
impression came from inside that.
What happens if Jason DeLine goes through his own portal?
We don't want to know. No.
All right, there's another
Oh
deep
yeah,
cut.
speaking of going through your own portal, the
This is a family show, Adam.
no, because you were saying about the Hicks influence, and I know it's not popular to bring up Louis right now,
Right.
Lewis, Mr. CK, but thematically not influenced by Hicks, material not influenced by Hicks, delivery style not influenced by Hicks.
Right. But there would
Freedom to talk about, here's how I pleasure myself,
Yes.
etc. And
Yeah.
I know we're going into a dark corner. I'm going to try and veer left so we
sure
don't
are.
go there.
Hard left,
but
please.
but he, like most comics in a post-Hicks world, could address personal shames and
Right.
these
Yeah.
things in a
Right.
way that
No, I
most
agree.
before had not.
It probably would have happened sooner or later, I think, just with the, for lack of a better term, maturation of society, or maybe that's definitely not the right word, but just being.
No, maturation is a good four-syllable
Yeah,
word.
you
That's
like
a
that?
solid one.
Okay.
You're
Well,
bringing
but
it.
I
I'm
wanna
not
take
ready
back.
for it as a word, but I will be sometime.
But I want to take it back because I don't think we've necessarily matured as a society. We've just gotten to a point where we don't give a shit and we'll just say whatever we want.
Right.
Maybe that's not maturing. Maybe it was better than 30s where we went, I think I can see your ankle. I'm sorry about that. It was much more gentle.
Another
when we
rock-solid impression from Jason DeLine. Everybody from the 30s.
that.
Hey,
was someone
remember,
specific.
remember when we censored some of our thoughts? You should do it sometime. It's great.
All right, fair enough.
But yeah, I think just the overall, the freedom, the license to say whatever we want, the true freedom of speech. I mean, Lenny went through that too, but it didn't get to where he wanted it to be. I think people were still being persecuted for saying what they thought, and now people just say what's on their mind, and they say that's comedy.
Right.
I think we demand a little better than that. But I don't know. I think it's hard to pinpoint people specifically. We can pick a few of those angry.
Oh shit, Carrot Top. Sorry, I forgot
yeah,
about
yeah, right.
Yeah,
Louis
of
Anderson.
course.
No.
Steve Harvey.
I'd like to see Louis go out. I am so sick of the airport.
Is that number 4? That's 4. That's strong.
That was my best one. Louis Anderson I've been working on
Yes,
a long
that's
time.
strong.
Yeah, he's current.
Quality.
Cool. So there's our answer for that.
There's your smart ass answer.
Can I ask you guys what you think about this? Because just about him fitting into our timeline now, like with all of his rage, all his vitriol, all of his you can feel free. In the inverse of America, you are free to do as we tell you. You are free to do as we tell you. He was giving his audience, his fans, freedom to express things or to allow him to express things for them. And those were expressed very darkly. But the internet culture now, because you can go, I like the color blue, and someone can go, you should fucking kill yourself immedially with a chainsaw, and hopefully your dog witnesses it and is never the same again.
Yeah.
Oddly specific.
No, but that level of rage that exists in most internet conversations wouldn't necessarily allow Bill Hicks to be Bill Hicks today.
You're right.
Because it would be passé almost.
Yeah,
It wouldn't be special.
because
Well, we were
everyone is an angry warrior poet in their own mind now, in a way that just.
But he was more anti-establishment than that. He wasn't. He wasn't
That's
picking on people for liking the color green. He was. He felt. It felt to me like he was against the man.
yes,
punching up.
He was trying to punch up for sure.
We were talking about Rickles too. Like Rickles would never have a career today. Like, oh my God,
right.
Don Rickles,
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Like,
Especially, you
go
look
listen to Hey Dummy and watch the beauty of Hey Dummy as an album is that there's this weird sort of like racism equality. Does that make any sense? Like
he's equally racist to everybody.
He's equally to every single person in the room. He has a whole pile of Jew jokes, and then he goes to the Chinese guy.
All based on the worst stereotypes.
He goes to every stereotype equally. Everybody gets equal time, which is this weird sort of beautiful but awful racist. But
it's a weird way to apologize for
you know what I mean?
What's happening.
And then at the end, he wraps it all up with this beautiful, like, "Hey, we're all just people. Let's just fucking have a laugh at ourselves." It's so bizarre.
He's never self-deprecating though, and I think for him to have the career now, he would have to do that. He would have to be one of the people he's taking down.
He does that once in a while. Every once in a while, he'll sneak one in and like he'll be like, "What are you talking about? It's me. I'm short too," and I'm like he'll relate to them. Right. But you're right. It is mostly crowd work of like, there's the queer guy. Like he just will go, and that's like, wow, really? That would never land today.
And I think people then, when they went to a Rickles show, they knew that could happen.
Yeah.
If you're sitting in the first 3 rows, I mean, you're hoping that's.
It was a badge of honor.
Right?
It was like, he called me.
But it's weird to say. It was a product of its time. It was okay then, but it wouldn't fly now. But it was not mean spirited.
No,
and I don't know if that necessarily makes it okay to say the things
he
said.
I don't know.
But he's known as Mr. What is it, Mr. Not Mr. Friendly, Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Mr. Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful,
he's
right?
Like
we're gonna get raked
guy.
over the coals for this one. But people say he's the nicest, one of the nicest people in showbiz.
Yeah, but and very nice racist.
He's a lovely
nice
racist.
Racists get a pass. No easy way out of that.
I'm not making
a
any
nice racist. Anyway.
The good kind. So this is a good question. It's, what is this Letterman thing all about?
Oh, what is the Letterman thing all about? Yeah, so Bill Hicks did this set on Letterman, and
big deal.
Yeah, it was his first one, and it was supposed to be his network television debut. It was like this is like him. Oh, here he is. He's arrived, and then.
92? I want to say 92.
Yeah. So it was decided between him taping it and it airing that they weren't going to air it. They were just going to play the set. Yeah. And even though his set had been vetted, they saw it. He didn't change it up. He didn't like throw a curveball at them and go, I'm going to sneak this in. Nope. Saw it. And then and it was devastating to him. And he was really upset. And it just it amplified his, see, I told you, network TV, they're fuckers. And he just was so angry and everything else. And then I guess it was about 20 years later, Dave Letterman brings Bill Hicks's mom on.
Oh, right,
and apologizes and said, you know what? I made the wrong call. I was nervous, and I didn't think it was appropriate for TV, and I don't know why I thought that, but let's play it now. And this was after he had died, and his mom, she could tell she had a little stank on her, like she was still a little mad at Dave 20 years later, which I get, but she also was very cordial and understanding, and Dave couldn't have been more understanding and more like he took all the weight on himself, which I don't think it was entirely him. I think I think that was
the network.
Like, I think it was more of a network than him. Like I think it was I think it was much less him than he let on, and they played it and it was great. And I heard afterwards that it was because of it was a religious thing. It was because he talked about religion and everything else. And that was the line where he meant he set those people up in the audience of like, I think having two dads is disgusting and evil, and then those people applauded, and he was like, I'm going to embarrass you now.
Wow.
So, but it's a great set, and the only thing that's a little off about it is that because he's so rushed, because he has like a solid 7 minutes, he doesn't take those nice like setup pauses of getting to it and then ramping up.
Right.
He's a little rushed.
So
but aside from that,
not quite him.
It's not quite. It's just a little like it stalls a bit, but it's still a strong set. And they played it again, and Dave's like, I've done a damn thing wrong with that. I don't know what I was thinking.
Cool.
But it was I think it was the only time that I know of that's ever happened
on Letterman.
That anyone's retroactively uncensored someone from the program.
Well, not only that, but just that it didn't air.
Right.
Like that a set came on that was vetted twice, and then they're like, nope.
Well, there was another. I think after Letterman switched networks, they were going to have him on again. Yeah. But I don't even know if he went on that time because I think it was NBC at the time had a policy that you could not tell jokes about the handicap.
Yes.
And he had a long bit where he mentioned the word wheelchair many times. And
he said wheelchair.
Could not do it without it.
And they were like no wheelchairs.
Yeah. So I don't know what the outcome was from that. But I mean it didn't air. Whether he performed it or not, I'm not sure. But.
Yeah,
I imagine you can get that on YouTube.
You sure can. Yeah, you can Google. Yeah, Google that, YouTube that. It's good. It's the whole thing is really good. Like his conversation with his mom is really good. The interview is nice. You can see her kind of like she's sitting there like I'm still upset at you, but I'm going to be civil and we're going to talk about this.
That's
and
cool.
This is for my son, and it's nice. It's a nice interview.
Nice.
It wraps up nicely. They play the set, and she can see her kind of smile, and it's a good.
That's
watch
cool.
the whole thing. I recommend the whole thing.
Okay, and people have theorized too that as you said, I mean that pissed him off, and he said like you see network television, they're the enemy, et cetera. And I think it bled into his subsequent albums too, like just that rage machine, the bitterness. I feel like really sunk in a little more,
which is why he was never going to be on Sister.
the shows you choose.
Today, he and Caroline Rhea would have a.
I'm going true to era. That's all.
Oh well, it's
that would have been 90s.
Very fair.
Anyway, yes.
I would have gone with My Two Dads, but
oh my God, My Two Dads. There's a sitcom that would have a different tone today.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah, they were both straight, right?
They were both straight, and they were like, oh. Just think about this for a second. There was a time, and just think about this. There was a time when it was a deep well of comedy. The concept of a father raising a child was hilarious. Think about that. My Two Dads, 3 men and a baby. It was like, can you imagine a man trying to be a dad and raise a kid?
Well,
hilarious.
To be
I'm
fair,
laughing already.
To be fair, in one of those scenarios, one of the men is Paul Reiser.
Fair.
And in the other scenario, one of the men is Steve Guttenberg. So what's not funny?
All right, I take back everything I said. Anyway.
More questions. Given the arc of Hicks's material that draws both from progressive ideals and InfoWars style conspiracy fears, where do you think he'd be now? What does it say? Break like Dennis Miller and Victoria. Would he break like Dennis Miller and Victoria Jackson, or double down like Lewis Black and Mark Maron? So is there a danger of him flipping to the
interesting.
right?
I would really like to hope that Joe Rogan wouldn't be trying to keep a straight face while giving a hand job to him right after he got off the Alex Jones show. I would like to think that. I would like to think that he would not be in the company of Alex Jones. I'm going to choose for the rest of my life to believe he would not be, no matter what. But
you know what? You go ahead. Sorry.
But at the time that he was, with the Oswald thing, at the time that he was saying, look at this network of manipulation that you are subject to, none of it turned out to be crazy, right? There's crazy in there.
Yeah, but not tinfoil hat crazy.
Right.
They smell like sulfur. None of that.
But then you have
Jones,
to
by the
ask
way.
yourself honestly, did he have some small part in opening up the tinfoil hat side of things?
Oh God, I didn't even think of that.
I would love to hear a set from him right now while people are actively going, oh, I decide what's true. When you go, no, here's the actual information. It's right in front of you. You possess it. The accumulated knowledge of those whose sole task is to determine the answer to these questions through human history is right in front of you to go, I choose this to be true instead.
Yeah,
that's how I want to live.
Going back to Doug Stanhope, who I think picks up where in a lot of places where Bill Hicks left off, he talks about, he has this whole bit about what if he was out of shit. People always talk about, oh, what a tragedy that Jimi Hendrix died at 27 and Kurt Cobain, and like, hey, you don't know if it's a tragedy. What if he was out of shit?
Maybe
people say, oh man, Bill Hicks was only 32, and then Doug Stanhope says, what if he was out of shit? What if he had no more songs to write, no more jokes to write? What if he just peaked? What if it was 2 albums and that was it?
I mean, you never like to champion the idea.
No,
of
of course.
Life being
that's
cut
not what's
short.
happening right here.
But,
that's not what's happening.
But yeah, it's
So
nice.
kill everyone young. Derek Forgy. He said it here.
Tonight on Out of Context. Oh my God. No, I'm just
Once
saying,
you've got 3 minutes of applause in your life, you will never top that.
that is
check out.
Wow, that is nowhere near what I was thinking.
You should carry a little tape recorder
One
around.
standing O equals eternal lying down. There you go. It's all. You're up, you're down.
Man, well crafted.
And the curtain
mercy.
falls.
It's a great.
No, what if Bill Hicks was out of shit? I don't know.
Well, I mean, we'd have to watch him decline. He'd probably turn into Andrew Dice Clay.
Oh, there's a Dice. Right?
I don't know. It depends how
Hickory
much
dickory duck.
of that persona he wants to stick. He would want to stick to.
Right.
Like maybe he'd be the guy who like, well, shit, I was wrong.
Yeah, but what would he have done during those years when like an intelligent, literate Harvard graduate was running the United States of America? Like, what would he?
He doesn't have that.
Trust me, things are gonna get fucking bad again.
Like, Well, I mean, you could say that they're the elite, I guess, too, the educated person, and of course they rose to power because of blah 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 blah. But there's always a way to attack whoever's in power.
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe that would be his bag. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe he would evolve and change and not be mad at the things he used to be mad at. I mean, 32 is pretty young. You're mad at a lot of stuff you're not mad at, and 10 years after that.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
Hard to put a social context on that. Like I know for our guys who are us guys now, we stayed teenage for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Like we were adolescent a lot longer than we had any right to be.
For sure.
So in the context of, let's say, the late 80s, early 90s, like how old or young was 32 then? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, was he just a kid out of his 20s then, or did that mean something else to be that age? Was he? Had he become his man?
He has the gravitas to me of someone much older.
Yeah.
But the
exactly.
attitude
I
of
was
someone
I was surprised when I heard he
maybe
died at 32. I was like, wow, that is young.
It does not seem like any 32-year-old I've ever met.
Yeah, you're right.
But maybe, let's see, that's interesting. The way he speaks seems more mature than what he's saying to me.
Right.
Right.
And I think he gets a lot of, he can go further and get away with more because of that. He's so articulate and so confident in what he's saying that in a less confident vessel, we wouldn't buy it.
You're right. And he even defends a pun. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he just belligerently was like, fuck you guys. That's a good pun. Like he's just like, I don't care.
Yeah, like and he says without a trace of doubt, that is the best pun you will ever hear.
Yeah, it's the best pun you'll ever hear. He's right.
Okay. And then you think about it later, and it's not. But,
it's not. But I believe
but you
it
believe
now.
it. Yeah, because of the way he said that. That confidence goes so far.
Well, and that confidence, I would agree with you, is better when he was not raging. Like the confidence is better. That hey man, we don't like what you said. Hey man, we're Christians. We don't like what you said. Yeah, so forgive me.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
like that's
killer
that's such a
material.
good joke. That is a really good.
It's
joke.
powerful without the
his
screaming.
presence in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
maybe
joke.
he would have done more of that. Maybe there would have been more presence, more stillness over time.
Yeah.
We'll never get to know.
He almost has a Leonard Cohen quality in that Leonard Cohen is considered to be one of the greatest songwriters ever.
Have you seen his HBO special?
I have not.
Fantastic. Jan Arden opens, killer, front to back.
In that he doesn't have excessive words, and Leonard Cohen just gets to the meat of the matter very quickly.
a word dearth.
And he has a dearth of words. It's a word dearth.
It got said. Word dearth.
We were hoping we'd
that's a term
somehow
we like.
find a way to muscle in word dearth.
Word dearth.
And
I
the prize.
want the full Pee Wee Herman reaction right now. The word of the day thing.
I want to cheer and
in there.
scream. There it is. The lights flickered for the people listening at home. That's number 5, by the way. 5 impressions from Jason DeLine. A laugh from Pee Wee Herman. But he he's condensed. He gets a lot said in a short period of time, like the joke you mentioned with the "Forgive me." That is crisp. That is a 2-syllable punchline.
Perfect joke writing.
3-syllable punchline. Sorry, I had a bit to drink. Yeah.
Oh, is that it? All right.
That's it. That's it.
I was waiting for it to start, and it was already over.
We'll be right back.
There's, but opposite to that was that bit where he did the thing about being Jack Palance and Shane.
Oh God.
I love the bit, but it doesn't need to be as long as it is because it's only one little joke. But you really.
It needs the timing. It needs the pacing.
I guess maybe I feel like I've heard that since. And it's more dense, and I guess I mean it is the whole thing is only one joke.
I can never figure out why. I never, for the life of me, know why some jokes you want to just hit you like a waterfall or a shower, and others you want to take a bath in. But I love taking a bath in that Jack Palance joke, man. Yeah. I want to sit in that longer. I want 2 more. I don't know, man. Pick up the gun. I want more.
Me too.
Yeah.
I feel like that is setting up a longer conversation that doesn't happen. I want to hear more about
that. I also agree with.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like the bit, but I feel like now that would be the first act of a 3-act joke. If that makes sense, you know. We talk about. Well,
I just did an improv block for fun. That was just for me. Just for fun. Why not? Nope. No.
No and.
Hey,
no
Dad,
and,
how's
no.
the flowers coming? I'm not your dad. I'm here at a bowling alley. What? It's an improv block, everybody. This is already a nerdy comedy show. I'm doing this. I'm making improv jokes. Let's move on.
Yes.
No. No, we're not moving on.
Okay, this person has been kind enough to preface the question with what type of question it is. General question.
Oh shit! I only rank private, dude.
That had a garnish of dickishness.
Well, I don't.
A soupçon.
There's no way for that to be helpful. I mean, if it was
And yet.
specific question about racism, then we go, okay,
Okay.
let's take a breath. We know what we're in for. But general question, like that's just going to panic us, really.
I'll take potpourri for 500.
I guess if I were a good host, I just would have chosen not to read that part and throw you guys off.
But
I
you're not,
apologize.
so let's move on.
But in general, you're specific, sir.
Maybe I'd do better if my show was only 10 minutes long. Sorry, pal. I guess.
3 friends, everybody. 3 friends. Am I right? We have fun.
I love you guys so much.
It was only work because we're not gay and then a 90s sitcom.
Man. This is 3 ice cubes away from a threesome.
They don't know how warm it is in here, or you just have a real weird ice cube thing. I'm not sure which way.
Yeah, like
either way, I fully endorse.
how many ice cubes are in you right now?
Oh, man.
Don't answer that.
We have a question?
Here's the question about the general. Is there an art form that ages as quickly as stand-up comedy?
No. That's it. That's another improv.
And on the high note, I always say
ages
that's
quickly?
our show.
That's a very good question.
It is a good
and
question.
I think where we're getting at, maybe I don't want to take liberties with the writer of the question, but I think some of the stuff is dated. Like some of the
Why stop now?
some of the stuff in the album. Like we were talking about this. The LA riot stuff feels a little dated at times.
Would have been
So,
filtered differently if written today.
Yeah, that's true. It would have been settled different. So some of the stuff is a little dated. Like some of the names were like, I don't remember that guy from 1991.
Right.
So yeah, but some of it does.
Well, yeah, that Bush the elephant thing. I mean, if you don't know who that is.
Well, right, and now we're back in
We're in the same
Republicanville,
thing.
and you're
Well, yeah,
listening to the
it's-
victorious arms raised
sad.
praise of the sun, and you're like, no,
Right.
man,
It's
you
hard to
need more
let
Estes
us feel
flasks.
that at
yeah,
all.
That's
Yeah.
where we
we
are.
are now.
Yeah, it's tough.
I think the music ages this thing. Even though he's the only one
really?
who did this, it just feels.
Dude, it's like 3 uncles in a basement.
That
it's
isn't selling me
it's
on
a
it.
high,
That
it's
doesn't-
I
a
don't
high-
want that. I don't want 3
No,
uncles
it's
in a
a
basement.
hi-hat and a drum and a fucking guitar.
I love that you guys have done 3 men and a baby and 3 uncles in a basement. I'm just waiting for what the next 3 and is. Could someone give me
No, how can 3
Three
uncles in a
comedians talk too
basement
long.
age? It's like it's timeless. 3 uncles in a basement is any fucking
Okay,
decade.
but see, you can say like 3 uncles in a basement it has a very nostalgic feel for you, right?
Yeah.
You had a very specific upbringing.
But if 3
Lot
uncles
of
in a
uncles.
basement has a very current feeling for you, you're probably like, man, I got to make this into a nostalgic feeling stat.
Yeah, because odds are these days, one of those uncles you don't want to be in a
look,
basement
Flock
with.
of Seagulls is aged. Like if it had a synth in it, we feel like this is definitely, you know what I mean? Like
But a flock of seagulls had
Yeah.
brothers or sisters with
No.
children, and they performed in the basement exclusively.
I know.
It would not age.
No, like a flock of seagulls doesn't age well, but like just like a ride cymbal and a guitar noodling is not gonna feel like any decade. No, am I wrong? I'm alone. I'm alone on this. I'm out on a freaking iceberg.
No, so you know what?
I'm the
I
only
agree
one.
with you. I think in any time in history, there are uncles playing bad music in basements.
Okay, then we agree on that.
Give 3 of them a baby, and we're 2/3 of the way to the master joke.
So all I'm saying is I don't want bad music on comedy albums.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's great music. It's scoring an album that's good. Like it's scoring a good comedy album.
I don't think stand-up comedy should be scored. I think that's really my problem with it. I think, like Adam was saying, you're not hearing the breathing and picturing the movements, and you're not hearing as much of the audience except for that one crazy cackler.
Yes.
Who he clearly brought.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I like the rawness of just. I mean, I applaud anyone for trying something different, but
Yes.
it doesn't work.
That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, well,
That's
yeah.
all. We're
Failing in new and exciting ways. That's
we're
Derek for you.
agreeing. Yes, we're agreeing to disagree. Clearly, which
I
I'm
don't
fine
agree
with
with that. I don't agree with that.
I think stand-up can age badly. I don't think
It can.
it ages nearly as badly as parody television. I think
Oh.
parody television
like even if you have talented friends on the Delightfully Wonderful, This Hour Has 22 Minutes, or any of those type of programs, you still find yourself going, how can this be viewable X years from now when the names, places...
But it's not built for that either.
That's right.
I mean,
what did Jean Chrétien say? I don't remember.
Anything that is aired 5 days a week, I think, is...
SNL can be really...
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's, all of it is such a moment in time. I mean, to me, stand-up, especially a special, is different. Like, of course, that is a moment of time, too. But the best stuff is the timeless stuff. I mean, one of our first albums we listened to was Bob Newhart.
Oh,
and
God.
There's a little bit of stuff that dates it. But, I mean, there's a driving instructor thing that is just, it's fantastic from beginning to end. And none of it is about, I mean, the only thing you could say as a product of its time is there's sort of a joke that the reason the driver is bad is that it's a woman driver. And that's one line right at the beginning.
So it's timeless because still.
Well, yeah, but any of those
staunch hater of women.
Thank you for getting a laugh there.
Any of those
Because that is not
one-sided
something
phone
I
calls that
believe.
Newhart did, that's going to live forever.
Yes.
Carol Burnett's show, even when they took something that was hyper contemporary or hyper specific, we'll say, not contemporary, but like the Gone with the Wind bit. If you haven't seen Gone with the Wind and you don't know shit about Scarlett O'Hara or any of it, that stuff is hilarious.
Sure.
It's just hilarious to watch and to do. And Oswalt, right? He, by the way, I really enjoyed the cast on Oswalt, but Oswalt, even if he's talking about stuff that's hyper specific to the nerd community, there's still such a universality in the tale being told that even if the data itself becomes irrelevant, you're like, I'm with you, man. This story is taking me where I need to go.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of Dennis Miller, where you have to have his exact level of education and reference level to understand all of his jokes, and that's no fun for most people.
Yeah.
The people who get it, they're like,
It's
fantastic. It's just for me.
I think my favorite Dennis Miller punchline is just him going, Lithgow and Garp. Like just like you have to like the Venn diagram on that. Did I say is a Venn diagram, not a Venn diagram? Venn diagram. Okay, thank you.
Trust yourself, man.
Yeah, Venn diagram. Yeah, like just Lithgow and Garp. I'm like, and I'm laughing when then nobody else. You have to know that he's saying John Lithgow, and you also have to know that he's saying World According to Garp, but he just cuts all that out and get right to the wow. Thanks, mister. Yeah.
There's a great bit on Saturday Night Live where Dana Carvey was did an impression of Dennis Miller.
Oh, was it dueling Dennis Miller's?
Yeah.
And they did it together, right?
Yeah.
That's a good bit.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good
But
bit.
that is a guy who has turned into a different person or cloaked himself very well.
And
for
you
a
know
long
what?
time.
He had such a good bullshit detector. Like I feel like Dennis Miller is also a bit influenced by Bill Hicks because of the fact that he is so good at pointing out hypocrisies and stuff. And then I don't know what happened. The wheels fell off the
9/11,
freaking rail and
man.
9/11, and he just was like,
9/11 made
no,
him go a different
like,
way.
and
Took a right turn.
I was looking forward to his social commentary on everything, especially the Bush administration because of the hypocrisy. And I was like, what happened to you, man? Like you were so good on both ends of the spectrum, left and right.
Yeah.
He was so good at saying this is fucking ridiculous. Am I right? Like, and he also had a bit of that bravado too. Like he had a Michael Jackson entrance once, the black and white HBO special. He came out of the floor like he had hydraulics.
Wow.
Hydraulic came out of the floor. He was in a Michael Jackson pose. He had like lights and everything else. And he came out but he still delivered the goods.
Yeah.
He still had a strong,
How did we fail to remember
tidy.
that?
It was so good. And then I don't know what happened. Like he just fell off the logic train.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a great bit because he tweeted that he was going to what's the name of the woman? Sorry, who just did the Michelle Wolf did the correspondence center.
I'm afraid where this is going.
He tweeted that he was going to write some jokes making fun of her,
yes.
but then the Samantha Bee show, Full Frontal, did it on his behalf, and so they wrote all these jokes about her that had all these crazy high level references, but like
that sounds
triple
great.
down what he would actually
sounds
do.
so good.
Yeah, look it up, folks. It's so funny.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of one. I got nothing.
Yeah, I know. Anytime you mention him, you want to do that.
I always want to do that
example, but
friggin'
It has to be crafted.
I always want to do that.
It's so hard to do.
Yeah, if I had a dime for every time. Cha cha cha. That's all I got. That's all I can do.
He's blower than a bleating a dirt, just like blow back in the now.
Last time I saw something like blubbity blue, it was all the way in Antietam.
Yeah.
Last time that guy said something, I was all in a. Am I right? Yep.
That's Sartre for you.
Lithgow and Garp.
He's basically a Mad Lib comedian.
He is. That's exactly what Dennis Miller is.
Yeah.
I enjoyed him for a great deal. A long period of time, I enjoyed him a lot.
Yeah.
And it was like, and he lost his bullshit detector, and I got
I want to
upset.
see if he could do that. Then this, the All right, Chachi. The last time I saw a turnip this angry with its very suspicious paintbrush, I was just seeing it with the Mad Lib.
Oh, damn it.
You would fill in. I couldn't get there.
So close.
But you have to choose the words from like a medical dictionary or a quote book, an Oscar Wilde quote book or something like that.
That's right.
You have to have a certain pile of books that you can.
You're not
take
wrong.
lines
For
from
sure.
References. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, this has been a lot of fun.
It has been.
Thanks so much. For the
I've
most
had a
part,
good time.
we'll cut out that non-fun part. It'll be mostly me and you, Adam.
Yeah, you gotta give it. Taking some time off to inflict violence and suffering on the ladies.
I wish we had a disco whistle on the whatever that thing's called. Whenever you, what
is
whenever
that
one of us? Is it a disco whistle or am I just 89? Like, am I?
No one calls it a
Is
disco
this-
whistle.
Anybody got on that? I'm
Air
looking to
horn?
the- Air horn. Disco whistle.
I haven't seen a disco whistle like that.
Isn't that what you call your penis, Derek?
Yeah, that's what I.
You wanna see my disco whistle?
I haven't seen a disco whistle like that since choppity chop chop chop, babe.
I did my 5, and then he asked if I wanted to see his disco whistle.
A lot of euphemisms.
Ted Kennedy in the Rainbow
Haven't
Room,
done
am I
comedy
right? With Socrates.
If I had a Ted Kennedy for every time that Lithgow did a puppety boo, I'd be all kind of wrap this up, please.
Yeah,
for the
we
love
get
of
it.
God.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, that's our show. Thanks so much to Derek Forgy, who you can find at the 10-Minute Talk Show. Look that up at 10minutetalkshow.tv, 10minutetalkshow.tv.
Just say it that way.
Well, because they might think it's TEN. It's a website, man. People spell words.
Stick the landing to line,
Okay, you need to buy both.
and women can drive. Fuck.
So wait.
Really good drivers.
Noted
Wait,
misogynist.
mean that.
The swear word came after the statement, women can drive.
God damn
So
it.
you hate that women can drive.
No, that's
you're not
not
getting
what
out
I'm
of this. We
saying.
know who you are.
Fuck, I blew it.
Okay.
If you're gonna hate things right now, you got to put some really shitty music in between your heads.
That's right. That's right. It'll. Oh, this is actually
Three uncles in a
mellower than I
basement.
thought it was.
3 uncles in a basement. Hit it.
Last time I saw 3. Anyway. So by the time this podcast airs, Derek Forgy will have bought the domain tenminutetalkshow.tv. So I can just say 10minutetalkshow.tv for at least 10 minutes of fun. And Kenneth Wilson, you can find at Adam K. Wilson on Twitter for, I don't know, what do you write on there? Jokes and
There's
observations?
There may be some. There will be now, actually.
Okay.
Watch Adam observe things.
Tonight's visit is such I don't hate comedy anymore, so I'm gonna get out
Good.
there and.
Yay! If we can reach and save one soul.
Wait. 3 friends in a place where comedy is rediscovered. You get 3 uncles in a basement,
any
3
of us
men and a
uncles?
baby.
I am an uncle.
I'm an uncle.
I'm not one on.
2 uncles and a ginger. There's
Two
our
uncles
show.
and a ginger.
Anyway, 3 guys who had a great time hanging out then, right?
Yeah, man.
Very good Ryan Reynolds vehicle.
And Adam, you can find he has a role in Shadowhunters, which is airing on Netflix. So look for him there. Very excited.
Catch him as the sultry malt shop owner on Sister Sister.
Wait, am I in that? Shit.
Yeah. It was supposed to be Bill Hicks, but he blew the audition.
Got it.
And you can find me at Jason DeLine on Twitter or jasondeline.com for, I don't know, whatever you think you might need me for. Comedy Album Book Club is available on all your favorite podcast apps, and you can follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at CABC Podcast, where you can get news about what we're up to, including bonus interviews, like my one-on-one with Patton Oswalt, which we were talking about. That's available now. And feel free to offer album and guest suggestions. Let us know if you're interested in being a guest on our panel. We might say no, but we'd like to know if you're interested. We record the show live at Toronto's Social Capital Theatre on the first Thursday of every month. Proceeds always go to Covenant House, Canada's largest agency for at-risk and homeless youth. So please put money in the can by the door on your way out. Next month, we'll be back on June 7th when my guest will be my pal and yours, Ian McIntyre. We're going to be chatting about Eddie Izzard's album, Force Majeure. Until then, I am your host, Jason DeLine. Thanks for listening to Comedy Album Book Club.
All right, boys. This threesome's not going to start itself.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from Corient. Corient provides wealth management services centered around you. They focus on exceeding your expectations and simplifying your life. Corient has been helping high achievers just like you enjoy their lives more fully, preserve their wealth, and provide for the people, causes, and communities they care about. As one of the largest integrated fee-only registered investment advisors in the U.S., Corient has deeply experienced teams in 23 strategic locations. Corient has extensive knowledge spanning the full spectrum of planning, investing, lending, and money management disciplines. Leverage Corient's exclusive network of experts to craft custom solutions designed to help you reach your financial goals, no matter how complex they may be. Real wealth requires real solutions. For more information, connect with a wealth advisor today at Corient.com. That's Corient.com. Corient.com.
You know how to book flights and hotels. All you're missing is a tool to plan the travel experiences you'll have once you arrive. That's why you need Viator. Book guided tours, activities, excursions, and more in one place to make your trip truly unforgettable. Viator has over 300,000 travel experiences to choose from. Everything from simple tours to extreme adventures and all the niche, interesting stuff in between. So you can plan something that everyone you're traveling with will enjoy. Real traveler reviews give the inside scoop from people who've already been on the experiences you're considering. So you can plan with confidence. Free cancellation helps you plan for the unexpected. And 24/7 customer support means you can travel worry-free. Download the Viator app now and use code Viator10 for 10% off your first booking in the app. Find travel experiences for you. Do more with Viator.